Well, here I am, little bundle of joy, weighing in at 7.5 pounds, the national average for my birth year of 1961. I was born September 2nd to Tom and Donna Mulvena, who were in their early 20s and married just less than a year. Mom and Dad had gone to St. Francis grade school in LaGrange, Illinois together, for the final year anyway, since Dad had moved out from Pullman in Chicago for just the 8th grade. Dad is the youngest of 11 siblings, both his parents, Alec and Julia, having come over from Ireland in the early days of the 20th century. Grandpa Mulvena served in World War I to earn his U.S. citizenship, and on his way to duty in France could see the coastal outline of his homeland Ireland. It was as close as he'd get for over 50 years. When he did return in the 1970s, his parents were both dead. He never did visit them, as he'd promised so many years before when he left for America. The home he was born in still stands, and I've visited with members of the Mulvena clan on my own trips to Ireland. I'm quite lucky. Many Americans aren't certain of their heritage, and yet I have my grandfather's memoirs to read, and I've walked the same farm he grew up on thousands of miles away. I've prayed in the same church his family still attends, and I've seen my family name etched on both stained glass church windows and on the gravestones just outside in the church's graveyard. My mother's mom, my grandma, Margaret or Marge, was also Irish. Her husband was a French-Canadian, Charles Lafleur, though I like to fib and tell people I'm 100% Irish. It's not really true. I called Grandma Marge Mom because that's what I heard my mom calling her in the days we lived with her in her house, just after my grandfather Charles, or Pop-Pop, died. Mom had 3 sisters and 1 brother, Buddy, or Uncle Bud. One sister, Aunt Margie, would die the same year my grandfather died. It was a bad year for my mother and her family. Aunt Margie was a nurse. So was my Aunt Joanne. And so too would my mother be. She would graduate from nursing school when I was in 6th grade. My mother thought about being a nun, like her sister, my Aunt Rosemary. And Mom was even in the convent for a while. But I guess the lure of my father was just too much for her. My sister Margie is 3 years younger than I am, and was named for our Aunt Margie, who died during my mom's pregnancy. It was nice to have a sister who would become my best friend. Oh, we fought some, and I abandoned her in the baby swings at the park just a block or so from our house. You could do that back in the days before all these terrible crimes involving children. But mostly we were, and still are, good pals. My brother Brian was born 3 years after Margie, and just after we moved to a new home in LaGrange. And though we were moving out of Grandma Marge's house, we took her with us for a while, at least a year, until my little sister Colleen was born. And that was enough for Mom and Dad. 4 kids, 2 boys, and 2 girls. Now it's important that you know that we Mulvena kids are almost fierce in our love and loyalty towards one another. I don't know that it's an Irish thing or a Catholic thing, but it's our thing, and seems to be prevalent among the families from the neighborhood and parish where we grew up. I don't say this to be hurtful or to make jealous those who don't have such relationships. It's just the way we are, and it's important to understanding me as a person.
I got a schoolboy heart, a novelist eye, stout sailor's legs, and a license to fly. I came with no mad feet.
We went to the same Catholic grade school our parents did, St. Francis Xavier in LaGrange, Illinois. I can name all my teachers and tell you many stories from those days. Luckily, I grew up loving to read. It's what I ask children I meet this very day. Do you like to read? For it's a major factor in determining educational success. We all went to Bennett Academy for high school, one of the finer high schools in the Chicago area, if not the entire country. Now, don't think I'm gifted or anything, because I barely got in. But because I did, my siblings gained entrance as well. Though I have to say, each of them proved to be better students than I ever was. I was terrible in math and science, but I loved English and American history. I learned to play guitar and I started to write songs. I met a man named Harry Chapin who inspired me to stick with music, to view writing and the arts as real work. He was killed in an auto accident when I was 20, and I miss him still. I didn't know what I was going to do with the rest of my life, but everyone from my high school went to college. I started at Illinois State University, and then spent a number of years at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, alternating my semesters between going to school and working to pay the tuition. I had been somewhat estranged from my dad and family, but eventually the finances got to be too much, and I moved back home. My father allowed me to return to work in his grocery store, and I am forever grateful that I always had a home and a job I could return to. While working at the store, I thought maybe I would get a better job, driving a delivery truck or something. But I found my way down to the University of Illinois at Chicago and met a professor who told me I could graduate as a history teacher in a year and a half, if that's what I really wanted. I'd had a great high school history teacher myself, and I thought perhaps I could one day be as good as a teacher as he was. And by the way, he's still better than me, and I've told him so. I'd met a girl in Madison whom I married at the age of 27, and we moved back to her hometown of Milwaukee. I started teaching at MATC while she taught in the local public schools, until she grew tired and unhappy and went back to school to become an attorney. Eventually, we both grew tired and unhappy, and we divorced. We didn't have any children, and she's back to teaching at a suburban Milwaukee high school. After nearly a decade of being divorced and leading a single life in a downtown Milwaukee condominium, I met my wife Kelly, who had been widowed with a 2-year-old son, Joseph. We married in 2003, had our daughter Emily Ann in 2004, and I adopted Joe. Kelly also teaches at MATC, and we have a newer home in a southwest suburb of Milwaukee. We love to work around the house, to do landscaping and gardening, and to take educational vacations, visiting with family and friends whenever possible. Emily and Joe attend a local religious grade school, like Kelly and I both did. The children take piano lessons, and I still write, record, and occasionally perform my music as well. I've been at MATC for a long time now, and will happily retire from there, hoping that 1 or 2 students will think that I was a pretty good teacher. I pray that my kids grow up healthy and happy, embracing and practicing the values of family and faith that their mother and I hold so dear. Thanks for taking a few minutes to get to know us better. We wish you and yours health and happiness as well. So long now.